Hey everybody, I was delving through the evergrowing cardpool of Flesh and Blood to find some new ideas for my Know Your Cards or Crazy Combo series. But what I have found today are some bad cards. Really bad cards. I got a headache thinking about any way to use them, and my headache got a headache as well. These cards that I will show you today are trash, a waste of space, and are nothing but traps. Welcome to the Crazy Brew. I'm John and I have the questionable joy to introduce you to Flesh and Blood's worst cards ever. Enjoy! Now, speaking of traps, Ranger traps are terrible. Tripwire trap, Pitfall trap, and Rock Slide trap are all hot garbage. Traps are a subtype of defense reactions that you can only play from the arsenal. So you need to draw them first, have them in your hand at the end of your turn, where you hopefully attacked and pressured your opponent, and put one in the arsenal to set up a trap. Only then you can play the trap. Imagine that you drew up a hand with traps, and your opponent, I don't know, let's say Starvo, attacks you with a 13 power dominated crippling crush, and your hand consists of some arrows and traps. Well, it's most likely GG for you because you cannot play traps from your hand. And the taxing effect of said traps? Let's say a single Frostbite tokens outshines all of them. Why? Because they have some small taxing effects that the opponent can negate by paying a resource. One single point of resource to negate all of your efforts to draw a trap and waste valuable arsenal space to play a bad card. Brutes have a better trap card than Ranger. Can you guess which card it is? Do you know it? It's Reckless Swing. It pitches for blue, blocks for 4, you can play it from your hand, and it actually deals an opponent 2 damage if you discarded a 6 power card for its additional cost. Pitfall Trap tries to do the same, but you have to set this card up in your arsenal to actually use it, and your opponent can pay 1 resource to prevent the entire effect. Rangers beware. These traps are not meant to hurt your opponent but you. What utterly useless garbage these traps are. But it doesn't end here. Crucible of War might be a legendary set from Flesh and Blood's past, but it also brought some really legendary crappy cards that are completely useless to this day. For example, Aether Conduit, a wizard 2-handed staff that says, once per turn action, pay 2 resources, deal 2 arcane damage to target hero. 2 arcane damage for 2 resources. As an action, you cannot even use it as an instant? No thank you. This weapon is trash. I'm sorry for everyone who pulled this as their cold foil from their first edition box of Crucible. I'm sorry for all of you, and I offer you to buy your cold foil Aether Conduit for a pack of gum and some old marbles, because that's how useless it is. If your turn consists of paying for Aether Conduit's effect just to ping your opponent for 2 without any other effect, you are doing something terribly wrong. And every hero with at least Arcane Barrier 2 will straight up laugh at you. 2 arcane damage is not much at all. Only if we get into territory with 3 or more arcane damage we are starting to getting somewhere. But 2 vanilla arcane damage? This will get you nowhere but maybe back to Hogwarts to get some more lessons in proper wizardry. And the fact that you can activate this only as an action adds just insult to injury. Kraken's Aether Vein in comparison outshines Aether Conduit in all aspects. But let's go on. I don't want to waste more time on this magical poking stick. I still have some disgust to share about some other cards. And the next card is Soul Harvest. Let's start with the good news first. It's a blue pitch, 6 attack action card that blocks for 3. These are dream stats for blue cards in Brood. The only 6 power blue pitches that we have besides it are currently Wrecker Romp and Deadwood Rumbler. But why on earth does it have to be legendary so you can play only 1 copy? Why does it have to cost a whopping 6 resources and have a garbage ability? The card reads, as an additional cost to play Soul Harvest, banish 6 cards from your graveyard. It gains +1 attack for each card with Blood Depth banished this way. If Soul Harvest hits a hero, banish all cards from their soul. They lose life equal to the number of cards banished this way. These are way too many hoops to jump through to make this card work. The cost is highly restrictive. You have to banish 6 cards to play it, meaning if you have 5 or less cards in your graveyard, you cannot play this card at all, and the on-hit effect is only relevant against 2 light heroes, one of which will be retired into Living Legend status soon anyway. If this card wouldn't be legendary at least, then we could run a full playset in Levia just to increase the 6 attack density in our blue pitches, but no way. If Soul Harvest wouldn't be legendary, it would of course be utterly broken. Chain Specialization Soul Reaping is a completely busted card in comparison to Levia's Specialization, and is actually good, unlike the brutal disappointment that is Soul Harvest. I play Levia since the release of Monarch, and whenever I draw Soul Harvest, it sucks more pieces of my soul right out of me, which is why I'm the lifeless husk shouting about cards today. So the last card I want to introduce to you before I go to cry in the shower is the Amulet of Haven Call. It's a blue pitch generic item that costs 0 resources, has go again and reads: defense reaction, destroy Amulet of Haven Call, search your deck for a card named Rally the Rearguard, add it to this chain link as a defending card, then shuffle. Activate this ability only if you have no cards in hand. This card has a high level of garbage complexity. First of all, it's an item, which means it doesn't have a block value itself. This alone can be a liability in many situations where you need to block. The most played items like Energy Potion or Potion of Deja Vu bring a significant upside with them that justifies the absence of any block value. But the Amulet of Haven Call's ability only searches Rally the Rearguard to the chain link as an additional defense. Rally the Rearguard is a common attack action card from Monarch that has 2 defense that reads: once per turn instant, discard a card, Rally the Rearguard gains +3 block. Activate this ability only while Rally the Rearguard is defending. The idea that a new item from Everfest is cheating a random common from Monarch to the chain link is funny enough. But what blows my mind is that you can activate Amulet of Haven Call's effect only if you have no cards in hand, and Rally the Rearguard has actually a useful effect that costs you 1 hand card. Who thought that this was a good idea? All of this feels like a complete non-bo, besides the fact that you need to run a common card that never really saw play besides limited to actually use Amulet of Haven Call. The only actual positive use that I have found out so far is that the red version of Rally the Rearguard has 6 attack power, which you can actually use to pop Phantasm. But again, you can only use the Amulet's effect if you have no card in hand. Now, I will admit that all the items of Everfest will have their time to shine as more sets come out, but at this moment in time, Amulet of Haven Call is the ugly duckling under the metric ton of items that we got in Everfest. But maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe the cards that I showed you today are actually good in a parallel universe where everything is upside down. Please tell me in the comments below if you agree, or even better, if you disagree. I for my part will jump back into the ever-growing card pool of Flesh and Blood and try to find more diamonds and oddities. Until next time, have some great games everybody.